Welcome back, Lincoln currency. In the world of coin collecting, there are certain coins that capture the imagination of collectors, investors, and even the general public, and the 1970 Lincoln cent is one of those fascinating examples. While most pennies minted in 1970 from the Denver Mint are still common and worth just a cent in everyday circulation, certain rare variations and unique conditions have led to some extraordinary auction prices and eye-popping valuations. To truly appreciate why this coin has gained such a reputation, it is essential to understand its history, its design, its specifications, the minting process of the time, and the market conditions that have transformed a small copper coin into a numismatic legend. The Denver Mint in 1970 was producing billions of cents as part of the Lincoln Memorial Cent series, which had been in production since 1959. This design, created by Frank Gasparo, features the bust of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, based on the original Victor David Brenner portrait from 1909, but with slight refinements over time. On the reverse is the Lincoln Memorial, a depiction so detailed that if one looks closely, the statue of Lincoln can actually be seen between the columns. Above the memorial are the words United States of America, with the denomination 1 cent below, and the national motto E Pluribus Unum positioned in smaller letters just above the memorial. The mint marked E beneath the date indicates the coin was produced at the Denver facility. In terms of physical specifications, the 1970 cent is composed primarily of copper, 95% copper and 5% zinc, with a standard weight of 3.11 grams and a diameter of 19.05 millimeters. It is a small but historically significant piece of currency that reflects both artistry and functionality. Billions were minted, but the intrigue lies in specific variations and conditions. Collectors have paid particular attention to the small date and large date varieties of the 1970 cents, most notably in the San Francisco minted proofs, but Denver's production also has minor distinctions that can dramatically influence value. While the vast majority of 1970 cents are ordinary, there are examples of coins that were struck with remarkable precision, free of the bag marks and scratches that come from mass handling. In top mint state grades, these coins can command hundreds or even thousands of dollars at auction. Even more dramatic are error coins, where double dies, off-center strikes, or other minting anomalies can create incredible rarity. It is this tiny fraction of coins that drives the stories of massive values, such as speculative claims of coins worth hundreds of millions, though in reality those valuations are generally exaggerated for sensational purposes or hypothetical discussions. Still, there have been genuine sales of 1970 cents that reach tens of thousands of dollars, especially in high grades certified by professional grading services like PCGS and NGC. A coin that might appear ordinary to the untrained eye can turn out to be a prized rarity if it is a rare variety in pristine condition. This has fueled ongoing searches through change jars, coin rolls, and old collections, as people hope to stumble upon a hidden treasure. The coin's appeal is amplified by the enduring fascination with Lincoln cents in general. As the most collected coin in the United States, the Lincoln cent series has millions of enthusiasts ranging from beginners to experts. The design itself carries deep symbolism, honoring the 16th president and featuring one of America's most iconic monuments. This connection to American history, combined with the possibility of rare varieties, keeps the demand strong. When considering claims of values in the hundreds of millions, it is important to understand the difference between market reality and speculation. While no 1970 cent has actually sold for hundreds of millions of dollars, the coin's story has been used in articles, videos, and discussions as a way to highlight how rare coins can sometimes reach astronomical prices in theory if certain unique conditions were met, such as a one-of-a-kind discovery in unprecedented condition. These hypothetical values capture attention and create excitement, but serious collectors rely on auction records, certified population reports, and expert analysis to determine a coin's true market value. The Denver Mint itself, in 1970, was operating at full capacity, producing not just cents but also nickels, dimes, quarters, half dollars, and dollars. With billions of coins struck, the 1970 cent is a testament to the efficiency of the minting process of the time. Each coin began as a blank planchet, cut from rolled sheets of metal, then fed into high-speed presses where the designs were impressed by steel dies under tremendous pressure. Quality control was good, but with such high production numbers, minor variations and occasional errors were inevitable. For collectors, the thrill lies in identifying those rare exceptions. A double die obverse, for example, where the date or lettering shows signs of doubling under magnification, can be worth far more than face value. Similarly, coins struck off-center, with partial designs, or on planchets intended for other denominations, can be worth hundreds or thousands depending on rarity and demand. The 1970 D cent, in brilliant uncirculated condition with full red color, is particularly desirable. Over time, copper coins tend to darken or tone due to exposure to air and moisture. A coin that retains its original red luster from the moment it left the press is far scarcer than those that have turned brown or reddish-brown. Professional grading captures this distinction, with designations like RD for red, RB for red-brown, and BN for brown. As we explore the 1970 D cent more deeply, it becomes clear why such a seemingly ordinary coin can inspire such fascination. The combination of history, design, minting variations, and market dynamics creates a rich story for collectors and enthusiasts. For those who hold a 1970 D penny in their hand today, it might seem like just a small piece of pocket change, but under the right circumstances, it could be something far more valuable. The journey from a mint press in Denver over 50 years ago to a collector's showcase today is part of what makes numismatics such a captivating field. The story of the 1970 D Lincoln cent becomes even more fascinating when we dive into the grading process, which has a massive influence on market value. In the numismatic world, condition is everything. A coin's value can swing from a single cent to thousands of dollars based entirely on its grade. This grading is standardized through services like the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, and the Numismatic Guarantee Company, NGC. They use the Sheldon scale, which ranges from per 1, essentially a worn piece with barely identifiable features, all the way up to mint state 70, a perfect coin without any post-mint imperfections. For the 1970 D cent, examples in lower circulated grades are incredibly common, as millions were released into general circulation. However, those rare pieces that were saved immediately after minting, stored carefully, and avoided where can reach gem mint state grades like MS65, MS66, or even MS-67. In these high grades, the surfaces are pristine, the luster is full, and the details are sharp. An MS-67 red 1970 D cent can command impressive sums because so few exist in that perfect state after decades of potential handling and environmental exposure. The red designation matters greatly because the color of copper changes over time. When freshly struck, the coin is bright red and lustrous. Over the years, oxygen interacts with the metal, gradually turning it to a red-brown mix, and eventually to a full brown color. Collectors pay significant premiums for coins that retain the bright red shade. While most 1970 D cents in circulation today have long since toned to brown or red-brown, the handful that remain blazing red are highly desirable. Auction results provide a glimpse into just how far these values can climb. A common 1970 D cent in circulated condition might be worth only face value, perhaps a few cents to a collector filling a folder. But in MS-67 red, the same coin has sold for hundreds of dollars, and there are isolated examples where bidding wars have driven prices into the thousands. It is important to remember that these high-grade coins are the exception, not the rule. Most coins from the Denver Mint of that year were produced in huge quantities and handled in bulk, meaning bag marks, abrasions, and minor flaws are common. Finding a pristine example requires searching through rolls, bank-wrapped coins, or original mint sets. While much of the sensational talk about 1970 D cents worth hundreds of millions is exaggeration, the coin's value story is grounded in a genuine numismatic reality. There are varieties and error coins that make certain examples truly valuable. Collectors pay close attention to die varieties, which occur when the working dies used to strike the coins have small differences. These differences can be in the shape of the date numerals, the spacing of letters, or even doubling effects. In the case of 1970, Most of the famous small date versus large date variety discussion revolves around the San Francisco proof sense, but some Denver issues also show subtle die characteristics that specialists catalog and seek out. In addition to intentional varieties, mint errors also play a huge role in value. An off-center strike, where part of the design is missing because the coin was not properly aligned in the press, can be dramatic and collectible. A double strike, where the coin is struck twice in different positions, creates a unique pattern that draws serious collector interest. Even more unusual are wrong planchet errors, where a cent might be struck on a blank intended for a dime or foreign coin, creating a piece that is both lighter and often the wrong color. These errors are extremely rare, but when authenticated, they can sell for significant amounts. The Denver Mint's operations in 1970 were massive. Producing coins at such a scale inevitably meant that a small number of mistakes slipped through. These anomalies, instead of being destroyed, sometimes made their way into circulation or collector hands. Over decades, some were discovered, certified, and sold at auction, creating the foundation for the stories of incredible values. Each sale adds to the lore and mystique of the coin. A single exceptional example can create headlines, inspiring thousands of people to search through their change jars in hopes of finding another. The collector market for Lincoln cents is one of the strongest in the numismatic world. Because the series runs from 1909 all the way through the modern day, and because Lincoln cents have been saved by generations of Americans, the demand for key dates, high grades, and rare varieties is constant. The 1970D fits into this pattern perfectly. While it is not a low mintage coin in general, the specific rare variations are highly prized. The psychological appeal is also strong. The idea that a coin most people ignore could be worth a small fortune is irresistible. The market also reflects broader trends in coin collecting. Over the years, registry sets, collections that are graded and ranked by services like PCGS, have driven intense competition among collectors. In these registry competitions, having the highest graded example of each date and mint mark is a point of pride. When only a handful of 1970D cents exist in MS67 red, for example, wealthy collectors may bid aggressively to secure the top spot. This kind of competition can push prices far beyond what the coin might bring in a normal collector-to-collector sale. The discussion of a coin being worth hundreds of millions is often a form of exaggerated storytelling meant to capture attention. In reality, the most valuable coins in the world, like the 1933 Double Eagle or the 1794 Flowing Hair Dollar, have sold for tens of millions. For a 1970D cent to reach hundreds of millions, it would have to be unique, carry extraordinary historical significance, and be in perfect condition, likely with some additional incredible backstory. While that is almost certainly not the case for any 1970D cent, the appeal of such speculation lies in keeping people engaged and searching. When examining the 1970D cent in hand, one can appreciate the artistry of its design. Lincoln's portrait remains dignified and detailed, with the date and mint mark crisply placed just below his profile. The reverse with the Lincoln Memorial is balanced and symmetrical, an iconic image recognized by generations. The motto "I in God We Trust" arcs across the top, Liberty rests to the left of Lincoln, and the familiar D mint mark confirms its Denver origin. Each detail, from the sharpness of the lettering to the presence or absence of die cracks, can play a role in determining value to the trained eye. For new collectors, the best way to begin is by closely examining any 1970D cents they find, learning to recognize signs of wear, color changes, and potential errors. A magnifying glass or digital microscope can reveal doubling, die chips, or other anomalies invisible to the naked eye. Even if most coins turn out to be common, the process of searching builds skill and appreciation for the minting process. Over time, collectors develop the ability to distinguish valuable coins from ordinary ones, and the 1970D cent becomes not just a piece of copper but a gateway into the broader world of numismatics. The conversation around the 1970D Lincoln cent becomes even more compelling when we explore the extremes of auction results, the psychology behind sky-high valuations, and how the number of collectors competing for top pieces directly impacts the market. When people hear figures like $435 million associated with a single cent, it often sounds impossible, even absurd, and yet there's a reason such numbers keep getting circulated in news stories, videos, and online discussions. At the heart of it is the reality that the rare coin market is one of the few collectible markets where demand can reach truly staggering heights when the right combination of rarity, desirability, and competition come together. For the 1970 descent, this speculation begins with an understanding that even though billions were minted, condition rarity is everything. There may be only a handful of absolutely flawless examples left in the world, coins that have never been touched by human hands after leaving the mint, coins that retain their original luster, and coins that show no visible imperfections even under magnification. Such coins, when certified at the highest possible grade, can become the focus of intense bidding wars among wealthy collectors or institutions. A coin in MS67 red might already be valuable, but an MS68 red or a theoretically perfect MS70 would be off the charts, because the number of such pieces could be counted on one hand, or might not even exist for certain issues. The moment a coin is certified at that top tier, its market value can skyrocket, because there might be 10 or 20 collectors worldwide who want to own the absolute best example known, and only 1 or 2 coins to compete for. This scarcity drives prices to levels that seem disproportionate for a small copper coin, but in the numismatic world, perfection and rarity are priceless to those who can afford them. There are actual examples from the Lincoln cent series that prove this principle. Over the years, certain early dates and exceptional grades have sold for 5 figures or more, not because the coin is rare in general, but because it is rare in such a state of preservation. The 1970 descent's highest grade auction records are not in the hundreds of millions, but they are impressive in their own right. Some certified MS67 red examples have sold for over $1,000, and particularly desirable coins with exceptional eye appeal have gone even higher. These sales are real, documented, and form the foundation for the idea that with the right combination of factors, extreme rarity, market demand, and publicity, the value could theoretically climb much higher. The $435 million figure sometimes attached to discussions of the 1970 descent is more of a speculative thought experiment. What if there were a unique era coin, perhaps the only one of its kind, in perfect condition, with some historical significance like being the first struck of its type? What if wealthy collectors, museums, and investors competed for it at an unprecedented level? In that extreme hypothetical, the price could indeed reach astronomical numbers. This kind of thinking isn't entirely unfounded when we consider that the art market has seen single paintings sell for hundreds of millions of dollars, sports memorabilia has reached tens of millions, and certain rare stamps and vintage cars have broken records once thought impossible. While coins have not yet broken the $100 million mark, the theoretical possibility keeps the stories alive. For serious collectors, though, the real market is much more grounded. The current coin market for the 1970 descent in high grades remains strong because Lincoln cents have an enormous collector base. Registry set competition continues to push prices for top pop coins upward. An MS67 red example is a significant find, and an MS68, if one were ever certified, could set a new record for the date. Beyond condition rarity, unique mint errors could also fuel high prices. Imagine a 1970 descent struck on a foreign planchet, a dramatic double strike, or a coin that escaped the mint with an extraordinary off-metal composition. These types of coins are often one of a kind and can command huge premiums when authenticated by major grading services. The collector psychology behind these prices is fascinating. For some buyers, owning the top example of a particular date is about personal achievement, the satisfaction of knowing they have secured something few others will ever possess. For others, it is about investment potential. Rare coins, especially those with certified populations in the single digits, can appreciate dramatically over time as more collectors enter the market and fewer coins remain available. Wealthy investors sometimes treat these coins like rare art or fine wine, assets that combine beauty, rarity, and tangible value. The $435 million figure can also be viewed as a way to draw attention to the broader point: you never know what treasures are hiding in plain sight. A simple penny in your change could turn out to be worth a small fortune if it has the right characteristics. That possibility is what fuels roll searching, coin hunting, and collecting in general. While it is not realistic to expect a coin to be worth hundreds of millions, the fact that some coins do reach incredible valuations keeps the excitement alive. In truth, the 1970 cent remains one of the more interesting modern coins precisely because it sits at the intersection of common circulation issue and potential hidden rarity. It is a coin almost everyone has handled at some point, yet in rare conditions, it becomes a piece of numismatic art worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. The modern coin market also benefits from the global reach of the internet. Auction results are instantly visible worldwide, bringing more bidders to each sale. This increased competition can have a huge impact on final prices. A 1970 cent in a high grade that might have sold for a few $100s 20 years ago might now sell for several times that amount simply because more collectors are competing for the same small supply. Online marketplaces, live auctions, and numismatic forums have created an interconnected global collector community, and coins like the 1970 cent are now part of a worldwide market instead of a purely local one. As more collectors learn about the potential of the 1970 cent, demand is likely to remain strong. Even if the $435 million figure is more of a myth than a reality, the underlying principle, that condition, rarity, and demand can create enormous value, is absolutely true. Every coin tells a story, and the story of the 1970 cent is one of mass production, subtle variety, hidden gems, and collector passion. It is a reminder that even the smallest, most ordinary seeming objects can hold extraordinary value under the right circumstances. The present-day market for the 1970 Lincoln cent continues to evolve as collectors and investors focus on condition rarity and unique characteristics that set certain examples apart. The base coin itself is incredibly common, with hundreds of millions minted, but the modern numismatic marketplace is not driven by raw population numbers alone. What matters now is survival rate in top condition. Most coins struck in Denver in 1970 were destined for circulation and experienced years of handling, storage in jars, and environmental exposure. These coins have marks, scratches, dull surfaces, and varying levels of color change, meaning that out of the massive mintage, only a fraction still meet the demanding standards of mint state red grades. Population reports from grading services like PCGS and NGC reveal just how small that top-tier group really is. At MS65 red, there are more examples, but the numbers drop sharply at MS66, and they become rare at MS67. If an MS68 red were to appear, it would instantly become a centerpiece for high-end registry collectors because there might only be one or two certified examples in existence. These population reports are constantly updated, and even small changes, like the discovery of a single higher-graded coin, can have a dramatic impact on perceived rarity and market value. Collectors who follow these reports know that the 1970 in top grades remains a competitive area, with each new certification potentially altering the balance of supply and demand. Registry set competition is one of the most important drivers of current values. When collectors assemble sets of Lincoln cents graded by top services, each coin's grade contributes to the overall ranking of the set. High rankings are a matter of prestige, and for some collectors, achieving or maintaining a top position justifies paying large premiums for the finest known examples. This competition ensures that when an MS67 red 1970 appears at auction, bidding is fierce. Even coins in slightly lower grades can command strong prices if they have exceptional eye appeal, because collectors want coins that stand out visually, not just technically. The market also reflects broader economic trends. In times of strong economic growth, high-end collectibles often see increased demand as more buyers have disposable income to pursue rare pieces. In slower economies, there can be temporary softening, but truly rare coins tend to hold their value better than common issues because their supply is fixed and their desirability remains constant. The 1970 cent benefits from being part of a series that is collected by people of all ages, from beginners filling Whitman folders to advanced specialists hunting for the finest possible coin. This wide collector base helps maintain steady interest in the date, While the $435 million figure often mentioned is an exaggeration for marketing excitement, there have been instances where publicity has had a direct impact on market prices. When a coin receives media coverage, whether it's a record auction price or a news story about a rare variety, interest spikes. This happened in the Lincoln cent market in the past with coins like the 1955 double die and the 1969 S double die, where widespread media coverage brought new collectors into the hobby. The same effect, though smaller, occurs with coins like the 1970 D when videos and articles highlight its potential value in certain grades. This renewed attention can push more people to search their coins, submit them for grading, and compete for certified examples, creating upward pressure on prices. In the current market, the typical collector value for a 1970 D cent depends heavily on grade and color designation. A circulated coin might be worth only a few cents. A mint state red example in MS65 can bring tens of dollars. An MS66 red can easily surpass $100, and MS67 red examples can move into the hundreds or low thousands depending on bidding competition. It is the extremely rare perfect or nearly perfect coins that could, in theory, push far beyond those numbers if the right combination of rarity, competition, and publicity aligns. The appeal of the 1970 D cent today lies not only in its potential value but also in its symbolism as part of the Lincoln cent series. It represents a specific moment in American minting history, a time when the Denver Mint was producing coins at an extraordinary pace, and yet still creating pieces that decades later would be sought after by collectors worldwide. The fact that an ordinary-looking cent from that year can become a highly valued collectible reinforces the thrill of the hunt for collectors. Every roll of coins searched, every inherited jar of cents examined, carries the small but real possibility of discovering a rare treasure. Looking forward, the market for high-grade 1970 D cents is unlikely to weaken. As coins continue to age, more will naturally tone or develop imperfections, meaning the surviving population of bright red mint state coins will remain small. At the same time, the collector base for Lincoln cents shows no signs of shrinking. New generations continue to enter the hobby, often starting with cents because they are accessible and familiar. Over time, these collectors gain experience, develop more sophisticated interests, and some will begin competing for high-grade pieces. This steady renewal of demand is part of what keeps coins like the 1970 D in focus for decades after their release. Speculation around extreme valuations for coins like the 1970 D Lincoln cent often takes the conversation into a fascinating blend of numismatic reality, collector psychology, and market dynamics. When people hear a figure like $435 million attached to a cent, the first instinct is to dismiss it as pure fantasy. And yet, when we look closely at the nature of high-end collectibles, there is a logical framework for how extraordinary values can occur, even if they haven't yet reached that level for coins like this. The collectible markets for art, sports memorabilia, and even rare cars have already shown us that when two or more motivated buyers with significant resources compete for an object they consider irreplaceable, prices can rise beyond any rational prediction. Imagine, for a moment, that a unique 1970 D Lincoln cent were discovered, one that had an unprecedented error or mint characteristic, something not previously documented. It could be a one-of-a-kind double denomination error, a coin struck over another denomination entirely, or a piece with a minting anomaly so dramatic that it becomes instantly legendary. If this coin were certified by PCGS or NGC as genuine, perfectly preserved, and truly unique, the publicity alone could ignite a wave of interest. Major auction houses like Heritage or Stack's Bowers thrive on such discoveries, using global marketing campaigns, press releases, and targeted outreach to top collectors to drive excitement. The coin would be displayed at major coin shows, perhaps even covered by mainstream media. The result? Intense bidding pressure. We have seen this dynamic before with other numismatic rarities. The 1933 Double Eagle, a coin surrounded by legal intrigue, sold for millions multiple times, with each sale breaking records because of its combination of rarity, historical story, and legal uniqueness. The 1794 flowing hair dollar, considered the first silver dollar struck by the United States Mint, brought more than $10 million in auction. In each case, the value was not just about the metal content or face value but about the narrative, provenance, and perception of owning something no one else could have. A 1970 cent would need a similar kind of unique narrative to approach stratospheric numbers, but in theory it is possible. Part of what fuels the idea of a $435 million valuation is the natural human attraction to extremes. People love the idea that something so common, an ordinary cent, could transform into the most valuable coin in history. It becomes a modern treasure hunt, a story of hidden wealth in plain sight. Even though the actual realized prices for high-grade 1970 cents are far more modest, the dream persists. This dream drives countless collectors to examine their change, to check old coin jars, to search through rolls from banks, all in hopes of finding the perfect example. And every time a coin like this is found in mint state condition, graded, and sold for a strong price, it adds fuel to the idea that the next big discovery could be just around the corner. The 1970 cent also benefits from its place in the Lincoln cent series as a whole. The Lincoln cent is one of the most collected coins in the world, with millions of collectors from beginner to expert. When a coin like this is placed in context, one among decades of designs, variations, and mint marks, it becomes clear that certain dates stand out because of scarcity in high grades, unique varieties, or exceptional demand. The 1970 is not a key date in terms of mintage, but it has carved out a place in collector discussions because of the competitive registry market and its potential as a sleeper coin. The more people talk about it, the more interest grows, and interest often precedes increases in value. Speculative scenarios also hinge on the broader financial environment. In times when alternative assets like cryptocurrency, fine art, and luxury collectibles are booming, rare coins sometimes ride the same wave. Wealthy investors diversify into tangible assets, and top-tier coins become part of that portfolio. If a 1970 cent in a truly singular condition were to enter the market during such a bullish period, it could command unprecedented attention. And because each coin is unique, there is no direct comparison that limits the price. A single motivated bidder can drive the price far beyond what numismatic price guides list, especially if the coin is positioned as the finest known or the only one of its kind. Publicity cannot be underestimated as a factor in extreme values. A $435 million price tag may be a sensational exaggeration today, but every extraordinary price in coin history was once thought impossible. The key ingredient is a perfect storm: rarity, demand, narrative, and timing. If all of these aligned for a 1970 cent, if, for example, it were discovered to be struck on a rare experimental planchet, graded MS70 red, certified as unique, marketed globally, and fought over by the top collectors in the world, it is not impossible that the price could shatter existing records. While that scenario remains hypothetical, it is exactly this kind of what if thinking that keeps coins like the 1970 in the spotlight, even decades after they were minted. In the day-to-day reality of the market, the 1970 remains a coin that offers excitement to collectors at all levels. From circulated examples worth a cent to high-grade certified pieces worth hundreds or thousands, it captures the imagination. The idea of a single coin being worth hundreds of millions may live more in the realm of storytelling than in current market transactions, but the underlying truth remains: every coin has the potential to surprise the market under the right conditions. This is why collectors continue to search, continue to submit coins for grading, and continue to pay attention whenever a 1970 makes headlines. The way bidding wars unfold for rare coins like the 1970 Lincoln cent, especially in the upper echelons of grade and condition, is a fascinating process that blends human emotion, strategic marketing, and pure competition. When a coin is positioned as the finest known example of its date, or as a unique variety with a perfect certification, the auction setting becomes less about a rational calculation of book value and more about who is willing to go further to own it. Major auction houses understand this psychology deeply. They stage high-profile sales, create dramatic catalogs with professional photography, and place the coin under special lighting to show off its luster. They often highlight the coin's pedigree, trace its ownership history, and if possible, attach it to a narrative that makes the coin more than just a piece of copper. It becomes a piece of history. In such an environment, a 1970 cent that might otherwise seem like a simple collector's coin can take on a different aura. The auctioneer sets the stage, bidders prepare with financial strategies, and as the bidding begins, momentum builds. The first bids come quickly, often from collectors who simply want to establish a presence. Then, as the price rises, the field begins to narrow. Only the most determined bidders remain, each with a private limit in mind, but often willing to exceed it in the heat of competition. When two or more top-tier collectors find themselves bidding against one another, the price can escalate rapidly. This is how we have seen coins exceed price guide values by staggering amounts. The record price phenomenon happens not in quiet sales but in high-energy, high-profile moments when the coin's rarity is matched by the intensity of the bidders. A 1970 cent in MS67 red can be worth hundreds, but in the right auction setting, with exceptional eye appeal, it could bring thousands. In an even more extreme case, say, an MS68 red or a unique era variety, it could go far beyond that. High-end dealers play a critical role in this process as well. Many top collectors work closely with dealers who act as their representatives at auctions. These dealers not only place bids but also create buzz around coins before they even reach the block. A dealer with a strong network can quietly inform clients about the significance of a coin, hint at its rarity, and suggest that it may be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. By the time the coin is offered, the groundwork has been laid for competitive bidding. Marketing is another key factor that pushes coins toward extreme values. The story surrounding a coin is sometimes as valuable as the coin itself. For example, if a 1970 cent were marketed as the finest 1970 Lincoln cent ever certified, and the only MS68 red known to exist, it would immediately stand out. Collectors and registry set competitions would feel intense pressure to secure it, because it could make the difference between a first-place ranking and a lower position. These collectors are not just buying a coin, they are buying prestige, recognition, and the ability to say they own the absolute best. This prestige factor is often underestimated by casual observers. Owning the finest example of a coin means having something that cannot be duplicated. There may be dozens of MS67 red coins, but there may be only one MS68 red. That kind of exclusivity is what drives the most dramatic prices. And if, hypothetically, a coin like that were to hit the market with heavy publicity, multiple wealthy collectors might enter a bidding war that would seem irrational to outsiders but makes perfect sense within the competitive world of high-end numismatics. While the $435 million valuation often mentioned for the 1970 cent remains theoretical, the mechanism for high prices is very real. It is built on scarcity, demand, competition, and narrative. Each of these elements feeds the others. Scarcity creates demand, demand creates competition, and competition inflates prices. The narrative, meanwhile, fuels interest from beyond the core collector base, drawing in media attention and new participants. This is how coins like the 1933 Double Eagle, the Brasher doubloon, and the 1804 silver dollar achieved legendary status. A 1970 cent would need an extraordinary set of circumstances to join their ranks, but it is exactly this possibility that keeps the dream alive in the collector community. Even at more modest levels, the market for the 1970 cent shows how this principle works on a smaller scale. Coins in MS65 red, MS66 red, and MS67 red continue to attract strong bids because collectors are motivated to improve their sets. Each incremental grade represents a jump in rarity, and each jump in rarity can translate into a significant increase in value. The excitement of owning a better coin, and the competition to have it, drives prices steadily upward over time. The rise of the internet and social media has completely transformed how coins like the 1970 Lincoln cent are discussed, valued, and pursued. Decades ago, information about coins traveled slowly, through coin magazines, club meetings, and in-person shows. Today, news of a rare sale, a new variety discovery, or even a rumor about an ultra-high-grade coin can spread worldwide within hours. YouTube channels, Facebook collector groups, Reddit threads, and dedicated coin forums all serve as amplifiers for the excitement. When a coin like the 1970D starts making headlines, it can quickly trigger what collectors sometimes call a feeding frenzy. A single high-profile video can have a dramatic effect. If a respected numismatist uploads a detailed review of a 1970D Lincoln cent in exceptional condition, breaking down its luster, strike quality, and grade potential, viewers are not only educated, they are motivated. Thousands of people may immediately check their own coins, leading to an increase in submissions to grading services. Dealers begin reporting higher demand, rolls of 1970D cents become harder to find, and prices start inching upwards simply because more people are suddenly chasing the same limited supply of high-grade pieces. This online buzz works in cycles. The first wave of excitement usually comes from a viral post or video. The second wave follows when grading companies report receiving an unusually large number of submissions of the date. The third wave comes when one or two of those submissions return with extremely high grades, such as MS67 or MS68 red. Those grades are then posted online, complete with photographs, and once again shared through collector networks. The excitement builds, and the narrative of the 1970D being a sleeper coin becomes reinforced. Collector forums often play an important role in adding depth to this excitement. On these platforms, members post detailed threads with side-by-side images, population report statistics, auction results, and personal stories about searching rolls or attending auctions. The discussions often get technical, analyzing strike quality at the Denver Mint in 1970, comparing die states, and debating the potential for even higher grades to be found. This level of analysis draws in more serious collectors who might otherwise overlook the date, adding yet another layer of demand. YouTube videos dedicated to rare coins, especially the Lincoln Cent series, frequently feature the 1970D in their Coins Worth Money segments. These videos emphasize the dramatic contrast between the coin's face value and its potential collector value, which is a powerful hook for a wide audience. The idea that a coin you could find in your change might be worth hundreds, thousands, or even more fuels curiosity. Every time one of these videos reaches a large audience, it creates new searchers, and every new searcher adds a tiny bit more pressure to the supply of high-grade coins. The market can react quickly to these waves of interest. Online marketplaces like eBay see spikes in searches for 1970D Lincoln cent, as casual collectors and newcomers look for affordable examples. Dealers sometimes adjust their prices upward in response to higher demand. Auction houses may highlight upcoming sales of the date in their promotions, knowing that current interest can translate into stronger bidding. Even coin shows feel the impact, as dealers bring more examples to the floor and collectors ask about the coin more frequently. What's remarkable is that all of this activity can happen without any change in the actual rarity of the coin. The 1970D Lincoln cent mintage is fixed, and its population in high grades is well documented. But perception drives demand, and demand drives price. The coin becomes a focal point not necessarily because it has changed, but because the attention on it has intensified. And as long as that attention remains high, the value can hold or even climb, creating the kind of speculative energy that makes stories about extreme values, even in the hundreds of millions, so captivating to the public. The digital age has also created opportunities for collectors to share their finds instantly. A collector who pulls a pristine 1970D from a roll can photograph it, post it to a forum or group, and receive feedback within minutes. If the coin looks like a high-grade example, the community may encourage sending it for grading immediately. These moments of discovery keep the excitement alive and keep the coin in constant circulation in collector conversations. The psychology behind why collectors chase coins like the 1970D Lincoln cent is one of the most fascinating aspects of numismatics. At first glance, collecting might appear purely logical, a quest to build a complete set or to acquire coins with historical or aesthetic value. But beneath that surface, there is a deep emotional component. The thrill of the hunt, the satisfaction of owning something rare, and the pride of holding the finest example all play into the decisions that collectors make. And this psychology can drive prices far beyond what would seem reasonable to someone outside the hobby. For many collectors, the idea of the perfect coin is powerful. In the world of the 1970 Lincoln cent, a perfect coin might mean an MS-67 or MS-68 red with immaculate luster, a flawless strike, and no visible marks. There's a competitive element here too, especially among those who build registry sets. In registry competition, collectors submit their coins to be graded and listed in public rankings. The higher the grade of each coin, the higher their set ranks. Owning the top-ranked set isn't just a personal achievement, it's public recognition that they have assembled something no one else can match. This recognition becomes a status symbol, a badge of prestige within the numismatic community. This prestige feeds directly into the concept of scarcity. If there are only a handful of MS-68 red 1970 cents in existence, then owning one is like owning a rare masterpiece. And in competitive collecting, the fewer available examples there are, the more aggressive collectors become in their pursuit. Fear of missing out, commonly referred to as FOMO, becomes a driving force. When a top-grade example comes to market, collectors know they may not see another one for years. This urgency can push bids far beyond standard price guide values. The FOMO effect is amplified by the public nature of auctions. Everyone can see when a rare coin is up for sale, and everyone can watch as the price climbs. The auctioneer's voice builds tension, the increments grow larger, and each new bid represents a collector unwilling to let the opportunity pass. Even bidders who lose the coin often leave the auction with a renewed determination to be ready for the next chance, sometimes at any cost. This cycle keeps demand high and ensures that rare coins remain at the forefront of market activity. There is also a psychological satisfaction in transforming something ordinary into something extraordinary. The Lincoln cent is one of the most common coins in American circulation, and the 1970 is far from a key date in most guides. But when a common coin is found in a condition so exceptional that it becomes rare, it creates a sense of discovery that feels almost magical. It's as if the coin has been hiding in plain sight for decades, waiting for the right person to recognize its value. This is why so many collectors still search rolls, check pocket change, and examine coin jars. They are chasing that rare moment of transformation. The story of a coin also plays into its psychological appeal. The 1970 Lincoln cent exists at an interesting point in U.S. history. The coin carries the image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner, and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, designed by Frank Gasparo. It represents continuity in design during a time of social and economic change. Collectors often attach meaning to the historical moment of a coin's production, adding an emotional layer to its appeal. For a 1970 in perfect condition, that emotional connection can enhance the desire to own it. Even rumors of extreme valuations, like the $435 million figure, play into the psychology of collecting. Most collectors understand that such a price is hypothetical, but the idea that a coin could reach that level captures the imagination. It reinforces the dream that a seemingly ordinary coin could one day become the most valuable coin in history. And dreams like this are powerful motivators. They inspire collectors to keep searching, keep upgrading, and keep competing, fueling the market in the process. This cycle of desire, competition, and prestige doesn't just sustain the market for the 1970 Lincoln cent, it amplifies it. Every new auction, every new discovery, and every new video or article keeps the coin in the spotlight. And as long as the spotlight remains, the psychological drive to own the best, the rarest, and the most beautiful example will continue to push the coin's value upward. If we step behind the scenes of coin collecting and look at one of the most influential forces shaping the value of any coin, including the 1970 Lincoln cent, we must talk about grading companies. These institutions, primarily PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company, have effectively become the gatekeepers of coin value in the modern market. Their role is far more than simply putting a grade on a coin. They influence perception, price, rarity, and long-term investment potential. A coin's grade is not just a number, it's a declaration of condition, quality, and comparative scarcity. And for coins like the 1970D Lincoln cent, the implications of a high grade are massive. Let's say a collector submits a raw 1970D cent that looks promising, shiny red luster, no obvious nicks, full strike. It's submitted to PCGS for grading. If it comes back as MS66 red, it's instantly more desirable than 95% of other 1970D cents. If it grades MS67 red, it enters elite territory. Potentially only a couple dozen coins share that grade. But if it grades MS68 red, and it's one of one, or one of two, it can become a 5-figure coin. The reason? The population report. Population reports are public databases published by the grading companies, listing how many coins have been graded at each level. When you see that only one 1970D Lincoln cent has ever been certified as MS68 red by PCGS, it tells you something profound. It's not just rare, it may be unique. And uniqueness is the bedrock of extreme coin value. The certification label that accompanies a slabbed coin also matters. Certain labels, such as First Strike, Registry Set Finest, Top Pop, short for Top Population, or even signature labels by prominent numismatists, can add desirability. These designations are sometimes criticized for being overly commercial, but there's no denying their influence on collector psychology. A 1970D cent that's the sole MS68 red, in a slab with a gold shield and Top Pop notation, becomes an icon. It's no longer just a Lincoln cent, it's a trophy. Grading also introduces a level of objectivity to an otherwise subjective hobby. Before the rise of third-party grading in the 1980s, coin value was mostly determined by dealer opinion and collector trust. Today, thanks to encapsulated grading, a coin graded by PCGS or NGC carries a level of market confidence. You don't have to take someone's word for the condition. You can verify it on a population report, you can look up auction results for that exact grade, and you can track how values have moved over time. And values do move. A 1970D cent in MS65 red might sell for $10 to $20 one year, then $30 to $40 the next, as market pressure increases. An MS67 red, which might have sold for $200 a decade ago, could reach $700 to $1,200 today if population numbers remain tight and demand remains strong. The coin market, like any other collectible market, is shaped by supply and demand, but here, the supply is hard set by mint history and grading data. Sometimes, when a new high-grade example of a coin like the 1970D appears, the entire market responds. Prices at lower grades can shift upwards slightly because collectors reevaluate how scarce higher grades really are. Let's say a new MS68 red appears for the first time in years. The pop report goes from 1 to 2. Instantly, registry set collectors will scramble. One collector who thought they owned the single best coin may now feel pressure to upgrade again. Another collector may see this as their only chance to catch up. The result? Bidding wars. Competition. Movement across the board. What makes grading particularly interesting for the 1970D Lincoln cent is how tough it is to find the coin in pristine red condition. Copper is an unstable metal, prone to spotting, oxidation, and fading over time. Many coins that were brilliant red when struck in 1970 have since toned to brown or red-brown. Finding one that's remained pure red for more than 50 years, with no carbon spots, no abrasions, and no handling marks, is incredibly difficult. That's why so few examples qualify for MS67 or MS68 red status. And that's what gives those coins so much power in the marketplace. Even one change in grading criteria, like a slight tightening or loosening of standards, can impact the coin's value. If a coin that would have earned MS68 red a few years ago is now held back at MS67, the population report may freeze. No new coins enter the top tier. Scarcity increases. And when scarcity increases, so does perceived and real value. There's also the question of crossover submissions. Let's say a coin was graded MS67 red by NGC, but the owner believes PCGS would give it an MS68 red. They crack it out, resubmit it, and if PCGS agrees, a new MS68 red enters the population, and the coin jumps in value. But the risk is high. If PCGS agrees with NGC's grade, or worse, grades it lower, the coin may lose value. This dynamic adds tension, strategy, and excitement to the world of grading and resubmission, and it's particularly intense around coins like the 1970D, where every step up in grade brings exponential gains. When we shift our focus to the role of media hype and influencer-driven attention in the coin market, the 1970D Lincoln cent becomes an ideal example of how publicity can transform a coin from a quiet collectible into a headline-grabbing star. In today's world, where information moves faster than ever, a single article, YouTube video, or TV news segment can send ripples through the numismatic market, sometimes creating what collectors call a coin bubble. The 1970D is perfectly positioned for this kind of attention. On its own, the coin is an attractive mid-date Lincoln cent, struck in large numbers at the Denver Mint. But what makes it stand out to the public is the combination of its historical design, its potential for ultra-high grades, and the sensational stories that surround rare examples. When a major outlet reports that a particular 1970D cent sold for an extraordinary price, it captures the imagination of the general public. Consider how a story spreads. A collector wins a record auction for a 1970D Lincoln cent in MS68 red. A press release is issued. A few niche coin websites publish the story. But then the mainstream media catches wind, maybe a business news channel, or a financial magazine, or even a morning TV show. Suddenly, the coin is being discussed outside of the collector world. Viewers and readers are amazed. A coin they could have once had in their pocket is now worth tens of thousands, or in some stories, even hundreds of millions. This is where influencers enter the picture. YouTube coin channels, TikTok creators, Instagram accounts dedicated to numismatics. They all see a surge of interest whenever a coin like the 1970D makes headlines. They create videos breaking down why the coin is so valuable, what grades to look for, how to identify special varieties, and where to find them. These videos often go viral because they tap into a universal appeal, the idea of hidden treasure. The comment sections explode with people saying they're going to check their change jars, their childhood coin albums, or the coins they inherited from relatives. The result of all this attention is an increase in demand, not just for the top-grade coins, but for all examples of the date. Dealers notice more inquiries. Online marketplaces like eBay see a surge in searches for 1970D Lincoln cent. Coin roll hunters specifically start looking for 1970D rolls at bank branches or in bulk copper lots. Even common circulated examples begin to see more activity, because newcomers often start small before they learn more about condition, rarity, and grading. But hype also has a more dramatic effect. It can push certain coins into temporary price spikes that outpace their long-term value. This is what collectors mean by a coin bubble. The influx of attention creates intense short-term demand, but once the excitement fades, prices can level off, sometimes dropping back to more stable levels. For the 1970D, these bubbles often revolve around major auction results. When a record-breaking sale happens, the hype cycle begins. When the excitement fades, only the top-grade coins retain those extraordinary prices, while lower-grade coins settle back closer to their baseline value. This doesn't mean the hype is bad, it actually helps the hobby. Every hype cycle brings new collectors into numismatics. Some stay for the long term, learning about other dates, series, and mint errors. Others drift away after the initial excitement, but during their time in the hobby, they add liquidity and enthusiasm. And for coins like the 1970D, these waves of attention ensure that the date never fades completely into obscurity. The $435 million figure you mentioned, while more symbolic than literal, is an excellent example of how extreme valuations grab attention. People share the story not because they expect to find a $435 million coin in their change, but because it's fun to imagine. The idea creates conversation, curiosity, and motivation. In that way, it fuels the same cycle of searching, grading, and buying that has kept coins like the 1970D relevant for decades. Ultimately, media and influencer hype work hand in hand with the deeper forces of scarcity, grading, and collector psychology. They are the spark that keeps the market lively. And as long as people are fascinated by the idea of hidden value in ordinary places, coins like the 1970 D Lincoln cent will continue to benefit from these bursts of attention, each one creating a fresh wave of excitement in the market. This doubled die is not a subtle variety. On strong examples, the doubling is visible to the naked eye. Most notably, the date itself shows significant doubling. The 7 in 1970 often appears thickened or split. The Liberty on the obverse can show clear separation lines, and even the motto, "In God We Trust," may exhibit a strong shadow-like second image. These dramatic double dies are the ones that capture collector interest the fastest. But it's important to understand how such doubling happens. A doubled die is created during the hubbing process, when the working die receives impressions from the hub. If the die shifts or rotates slightly between impressions, the final die will carry two sets of details at slightly different positions. Every coin struck from that die will show the same doubling. In 1970, at the Denver Mint, some working dies clearly suffered from misalignment during hubbing, resulting in one of the boldest doubled die varieties of the entire Lincoln Memorial Cent series. When the doubled die obverse examples first entered the market, they weren't always recognized. Collectors who noticed the doubling sometimes set these coins aside as curiosities. It wasn't until years later, when the variety was officially cataloged, that prices began to rise sharply. Today, certified examples, especially in higher mint state grades, can command impressive sums. A 1970 D double die obverse in MS65 red might bring several $100s. In MS66 or MS67 red, prices can soar much higher, depending on eye appeal and population. There are also more subtle double dies, sometimes referred to as minor DDOs. These show lighter doubling on the date or letters, and while they are still collected, they don't command the same premiums as the bold variety. Nevertheless, even minor varieties can add extra value when combined with strong condition. In addition to doubled dies, there are other errors that make 1970 D cents especially desirable. Off-center strikes are one example. These occur when the coin planchet is not properly centered in the collar during striking, resulting in part of the design being missing and a blank crescent of metal showing. A dramatic off-center strike, say, 50% off-center, on a 1970 D Lincoln cent can easily bring hundreds of dollars, especially if both the date and mint mark are visible. Clipped planchets are another type of error. In this case, the blank metal sheet from which planchets are punched has overlapping punches, resulting in coins with crescent-shaped clips missing from the edge. While less spectacular than an off-center strike, a nicely formed clip on a 1970 D cent can still attract attention. Striking errors, such as broad strikes, partial collar strikes, or even multiple strikes, also exist for the date. These are far scarcer and often fetch strong premiums from error specialists. A double-struck 1970 D cent, for example, where the design appears twice on the coin at different rotations, is an immediate conversation piece. What's fascinating is how these varieties and errors interact with the hype we discussed earlier. A single auction of a rare doubled die obverse in a top grade can reignite interest in the entire date. New collectors start searching rolls for doubling. Error collectors look for examples of off-centers or clips. Dealers see more inquiries about certified varieties. And every time a new high price is realized for one of these coins, the 1970 D Lincoln cent steps further into the spotlight. For those who already own 1970 D cents, this is where things get interesting. A coin they thought was common might suddenly have hidden value if it exhibits doubling or a dramatic error. Many stories have circulated of collectors going back through their old collections, finding coins they had set aside years earlier, and discovering a doubled die or rare error that had gone unnoticed. These discoveries fuel the excitement, and the market. In a way, the varieties and errors of the 1970 D Lincoln cent form the secret heart of its mystique. While the standard coin in ultra-high grade is already a star, it's the unexpected doubled dies, off-center strikes, and other anomalies that give the date its unpredictability. This unpredictability is part of what keeps collectors engaged year after year, searching for that special coin that will stand out from the rest. When we talk about how rare and valuable 1970 delinquent cents are discovered, one of the most fascinating aspects of the story is the role of roll hunting, bank searches, and old estate collections. These activities connect everyday people to the thrill of numismatic discovery. They are a direct link between the casual change checker and the seasoned collector who knows exactly what to look for. Roll hunting is one of the most accessible ways to search for coins. This practice involves obtaining rolls of coins from banks, usually at face value, and searching through them for rare dates, high grades, or valuable varieties. In the case of the 1970 cent, most rolls will contain well-circulated examples with some brown toning, but every once in a while, a roll will yield a bright red, nearly uncirculated coin that has been protected from circulation for decades. Sometimes, entire rolls of uncirculated 1970 cents surface. These rolls may have been set aside shortly after the coins were issued, often by bank tellers, small businesses, or individuals who enjoyed collecting coins directly from circulation. Over time, such rolls may sit untouched in a safe deposit box, drawer, or storage container. When they reappear decades later, they can yield coins in remarkable condition, some of which may be good candidates for high grades if submitted to a grading service. The hunt becomes even more exciting when varieties are involved. Imagine a roll of 1970 cents being searched and a collector spotting the distinctive doubling on a coin's date. This is not just a lucky find, it's potentially a significant discovery. A double die obverse in mint state condition, fresh from an old roll, can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. These are the kinds of finds that keep roll hunters coming back for more, always chasing the possibility of the next big discovery. Bank searches also play a role. While modern banks rarely have old coins sitting in their drawers, occasionally a teller might receive a batch of older cents from a customer who is depositing coins from a jar or collection. If those coins are placed into rolls without inspection, a collector withdrawing them could be in for a surprise. Many roll hunters build relationships with bank staff, asking them to set aside older rolls or unusual coins. This kind of networking can make all the difference. Estate collections are another major source of rare 1970 cents. Over the years, countless collectors have quietly built coin collections, often storing them in albums, envelopes, or cigar boxes. When these collectors pass away, their heirs may not be fully aware of the value of the coins they inherit. Sometimes the collections are sold as a bulk lot to dealers or auction houses. Other times they are deposited into the banking system or sold at yard sales. For the 1970 delinquent cent, estate finds can be particularly rewarding because they may include coins purchased directly from the mint or saved in pristine rolls. Collectors in the 1970s and 1980s were very aware of the potential value of mint-condition coins, but they may not have focused specifically on the doubled die varieties. That means a modern collector going through such a collection might find coins that are both in high grade and exhibit rare varieties, essentially untouched treasures. There are countless stories in the numismatic community of extraordinary coins being found in ordinary places. A coffee can full of cents tucked away in a garage. A coin jar from a relative's attic. A drawer full of mint-wrapped rolls that had been forgotten for decades. In each case, the coins inside can hold surprises, especially if they include 1970 cents in exceptional condition. These stories highlight one of the most exciting aspects of coin collecting, the idea that valuable coins are still out there, waiting to be found. While the majority of 1970 cents in circulation are worth only face value or slightly more, the possibility of finding a rare variety or an ultra-high-grade coin keeps the search alive. This is part of the magic of numismatics, the blend of history, patience, and luck that can turn an ordinary search into an extraordinary discovery. And what's most remarkable is that these finds are not just limited to professional collectors. Anyone with curiosity, patience, and a willingness to search can participate. The thrill of discovery is just as real for the hobbyist searching rolls on their kitchen table as it is for the seasoned collector at a major coin show. For the 1970 delinquent cent, this accessibility keeps interest high and ensures that the date remains a staple of the coin hunting community year after year.